Let's bring in former Air Force Special Operations Commander and retired Major Glenn Ignazio. Major, sir, thank you so much for being here. So NBC News reports that the president is seriously considering sending small tactical deployments of U.S. troops into Iran rather than a large-scale invasion. Is this feasible, sir, with the volume of retaliation Iran has demonstrated? You just heard my colleague Josh there saying over 120 projectiles, flown into UAE airspace just today. And is this what President Trump was referencing when he said there could be more American casualties?
Well, great questions. In regards to the ground troops, I would hope that we didn't do a big invasion as was some of the mistakes that we've seen in the past. This may be something with the special forces or some of the intelligence organizations that are probably already operating in the ground. The Kurds were in the north, and that was one of the tactics to try to pull Iranians' forces north. But at the same time, as we strike particular areas, there has to be organization on the ground to actually overthrow this regime. We can't just strike targets. There has to be an organization, an organized effort to that. In regards to the attacks on the UAE, it is surprising that has occurred because the UAE, both the leader of Abu Dhabi, Dubai, and Sharjah specifically, one of their wives are actual Iranian citizens. They're actually married into the Iranian families. So seeing the attack against the UAE has been surprising for me.
So, Major, if you're suggesting there has to be a coordinated effort on the ground, are you suggesting that's American boots on the ground? If that happens, are there off-ramps there? And how does the U.S. begin to scale back its involvement at that point? Could it increase or need to increase as a protection force for U.S. soldiers that stand in harm's way?
Yeah, great questions as well. So a lot of times the intelligence organizations working with locals in the particular country, both that may be the Israelis and the Americans, is again organizing and galvanizing the protesters, because as this regime falls, there has to be an organized to say, who is this going to be the takeover? And we saw Reza Pavlov being endorsed and being able to be there, but he has to get into that country. What we don't want to do is we don't want to continue on high IRGC, because that would then kill the protesters, or even worse, have that vacuum where you have sectarian violence trying to bid. So I know that there's a lot of planning and efforts to get somebody in charge for that. Now, in regards to what's going on with these forces, right now, there are certain strikes that have been taking out the ballistic missile sites. That is probably the biggest focus because it's the biggest threat right now, and also all the facilities that are able to build that. I think what you're going to see is a lot of those forces that shot down these missiles that originally attacked Israel some time ago are being used for strikes. So we don't have as intensive a coverage as before. And I know that is going to be one of the main efforts for this going forward.
Major, the Trump administration is seeking outside help to learn how to combat Iranian drones, which have pierced air defenses around the Gulf region. Is the U.S. military unprepared for this, despite seeing evidence of their capabilities while used by Russia in Ukraine for years now?
Yeah, what we saw was, again, the entire dynamics of war has completely turned, especially in Ukraine, where Ukraine's drones really are the most significant against an organized, established military like Russia. So that time, especially within the last 4 years, completely changed the dynamics of warfare as we knew it was coming on. So there's some systems that have been in development, but at the same time, they haven't been deployed as effectively as possible. Israel's probably the one of the most advanced as far as the technology do that because of, again, the threats that they have. The other thing is this is not just physical dynamic warfare, is that you also have the cost, economic warfare. These drones could cost only up to $30,000 to $50,000, while you're seeing a missile like THAAD that usually hits outside the atmosphere, or the Patriots, could cost up to $1 million plus for each missile. So that's where we're transitioning to different technology. So it's a long development. It's not that we're not prepared, but we don't have the technology deployed yet.
So, Major, how long can the U.S. continue to use these, high-level munition systems to combat drones that are so significantly cheaper?
Yes, I think from the ground systems, like we talked about, Patriot, THAAD, there's other systems, a lot of these were actually given to Ukraine and supplied Ukraine. These missiles take a long time, not just particularly building them, but the supply chain. So you can see like Lockheed Martin that builds the THAAD missile. they're only building about 50 a year, and they're trying to ramp it up to hundreds. So it's that supply chain that really hampers it. Whereas the Patriot is much more for the lower altitude that can get those. Again, there's about 600 developed per year, and they're trying to get that up into a couple of thousands, but that's going to take 5 years to do it. What the strain is, the United States will never reveal how many they have from a store's standpoint, but I know that they have to be strained in this particular task and conflict.
Last question, sir. How do you see this war ending?
Well, I look at it from a strategic exit criteria. That's something that really has to be established. And I do believe that it's going to be at this particular point where there's regime change. Now, to say it's 4 to 6 weeks, I think there's an optimistic approach. But if we can shut down the offensive capabilities that they are impacting on our neighboring countries or the neighboring countries there, and being able to focus and get that regime change in a safe standpoint would be the exit criteria. But you are talking about military operations focusing into more geopolitical intelligence and getting a regime where somebody is going to free Iran, which honestly, I think the world really wants.
Retired Air Force Special Ops Commander Major Glenn Ignazio. I look forward to seeing you again. Come back and see me. Thank you, sir.